Figueiredo, for me, has made the flyweights more interesting, right? Because that's not a skill issue. When we're talking about interesting, that's not a skill issue. Yes, he can punch and kick and he can do the grappling. They all could. And it's also going to be very tough if you're only basing it on skill to ever compare anybody to Demetrius Johnson. I mean, those are some big shoes to fill. What did Demetrius defend that championship like 11 times? Finishing guys, getting arm bars on his way down to the ground. I mean, he was crazy. He looked like he was out of a video game. But to save the division doesn't mean you have to be as good as Demetrius Johnson. It means, are you interesting? And Figueiredo's making things interesting. Now, he's simple things. He just did a show with Ariel. They're indoors. He's wearing sunglasses and no shirt and demands that Ariel roll the camera down to take in his abs. It's silly. It's low-hanging fruit, right? He bleaches the hair. It's simple. This isn't the hardest gimmick to do, but it's still a gimmick, and it's still more than that division has or has ever had. And I'll also maintain for you, I don't know that it was ever Demetrius's fault for the lack of attention, lack of draw, 225 pounds. It takes two. You need a partner. There's nothing Demetrius can do because he's in the driver's seat. He's going to be the marquee fighter. He's going to be the main event, and he's going to be for a world championship because he's bringing it. Who's going to sit in the passenger seat? And that was something that 125 pounds was just missing. And it was all the other guys' fault. All of them. For not being interesting. They wanted to out-nice the nicest guy in the sport, who, by the way, is guaranteed the spot. So, not a lot of eyeballs paid attention to the division. Now you have Figueiredo. Figueiredo's a bad guy. He's missing weight and not apologizing. He's bleaching his hair. He's wearing velvet shirts. Showing up for interviews indoors without a shirt on, demanding you scroll down. I mean, there's just something there. It's something different. And if the guys at 125 pounds are going to remain as vanilla and boring as they have for the last decade, great. Now there's actually a spot for them. Now there's actually a time where that can work. Because you got the heel driving the car. I just think he's made things more interesting. I think he's doing a really good job. From a marketing standpoint, he does not speak English. And it's not a matter that his English is bad. He doesn't speak it. I don't know if he's working on that. I don't know. I can tell you at the American Top Team, head coach Conan Silveira, Coach Conan makes his athletes, because he brings a lot in from Brazil, brings them over. He makes them take English twice a week. You got to work on your boxing twice a week. You got to get in the weight room and the conditioning twice a week. You got to spar twice a week. Oh, by the way, required. You have to take English twice a week. Brings in, just like a classroom, brings in tutors, sits them down, blackboard behind them, handouts, lessons. It's a very real thing. But it does have to do with the marketing. And I only bring that to you not to be insensitive and say, oh, this guy doesn't speak English. No, not to do that at all. I feel like Figueiredo's right on top of something very special. I feel like he's really got a hold of the right tool, and maybe by the wrong end. But even in his interview with Ariel that had to be subtitled, the mere fact that he's got no t-shirt on indoors while wearing sunglasses and forces the camera to pan down to take in his abs, there's just something there. I mean, there's something there that hasn't been done at 125 pounds. What would be the ideal spot for him? What would be the ideal thing to do? When you think of 125 pounds, there's three guys. Joey B, Demetrius, Henry. Those guys have all left. And while Joseph is still there, he's had that opportunity not once, but twice, so he's not coming back in the rotation. So who do you go to? Who do you go to? Ideal situation, I suppose Henry. Henry comes back. Henry takes on Figueiredo. But I don't know that there's any likelihood, and why I still am weak on the whole Henry's retired and this is for life routine. I don't know that I'm right. I don't know that he is coming back. I am very confident telling you, if he came back, it is not going to be at 125 pounds. There's a reason he left 125 pounds in the first place, which is he didn't want to make 125 pounds anymore. And he's also showed an interest in coming back, but going up all the way to 45 and taking on Volkanovski and trying to do the champ thing. So I just don't know that there's any likelihood to hanging your hat on the idea that someday Henry's going to come in and Henry and Figueiredo are going to get this figured out. I don't see that happening. So I'm back to asking you, well, what? And there's some interesting characters at 125 pounds. But that divisions all kind of operate. Each division's different. They all kind of operate on their own. And 125 pounds has not operated in a great place. I'm talking about draw. I'm talking about interest. Their skills are phenomenal. Wonderful fighters down there. I'm talking about why is there not an interest? And so now that you've never had a heel, you now have a heel. Oh, and by the way, he's driving the car. He's going to bring the belt. It opens it up for some of the other faces. But another thing 125 pounds doesn't do is they don't have a lot of guys screaming and shouting that they should be the number one contender. Never did. For whatever reason. There just appears to be some real opportunity at 125 right now. I would hope that somebody will recognize it. I'll hope that somebody will seize on it. Figueiredo's looking for something to do, and I think he's going to end up doing it pretty well. Again, I'm going by 125-pound standards. I'm not putting him in there with some of the greats. I'm not putting him in there with the Connors and the Tonys of the world, of the George Masvidals. But for 125, I think it's new. I think it's refreshing. I think that he's going to keep that division around. Now I want to see who wants, for one night only, under the unified rules, to be his partner.